Welcome back, everybody. I'm so glad to have you here and listening. I have with me today Wendy Snyder of Fresh Start Parenting, and we're going to talk about starting over, what that looks like in parenting, when we might do that, when we might not do that, if there's ever a time not to do that, and what that means for us as parents of neurodivergent kids, kids who are walking through the world a little bit differently, experiencing the world a little bit differently. So, Wendy, will you start by telling everybody who you are and what you do?
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Penny. It's so good to be here and to connect. And I'm really grateful for this conversation today. So, hello, listeners. I'm Wendy Snyder. I am a powerful parenting educator, family life coach, and author of the new book, Fresh Start Your Family. And to me, a fresh start is really about having the humility, which we really do believe is a superpower here at Fresh Start Family. Mother Teresa talked about how humility can change the world, and I agree with her. But
Mm.
having the humility to say, there might have been some things that I inherited from my own upbringing that I can see I'm now maybe repeating with my own kids. And I want to change that. Like it doesn't feel good. Maybe the ability or the courage to raise your hand and say, man, yesterday was really a shit show. I find that sometimes the lowest moments as a parent, or really as a human, actually, some of those lowest moments where it just feels dark and heavy and it feels like what you're doing is air quotes not working, those are often the most fertile ground to be able to actually step into a next season of support and get the help that you need to do things differently. And so here at First Start Family, we really focus on four main pillars. They're the same pillars that I teach about in the book. But some of the biggest ones are the ability to raise your hand and get humble about, wow, I've got some reactive tendencies. That was my story. I found this work when my daughter was 3. She's now 18, which is just wild to have an adult child and that same
Yes.
strong will that she was blessed with that I thought I was going to lose my mind over. And I really did. Think something was air quotes wrong with her. That's before I learned that uniqueness is a freaking gift.
Yep.
But she's now 18. She's accomplished her dream of becoming a Division I beach volleyball athlete at a top 10 school in the nation. She'll be
Awesome.
headed to college this next fall, and that is an accomplishment that I attest to this work. So yes, she's amazing, but she was an undersized defender, meaning that just means you're short in volleyball, and she had to fight for that recruitment. And that strong will that we learned how to nurture and build up instead of break through the years. That is one of the reasons why she was able to persevere and believe in herself and really get this very hard to reach goal. Less than 1% of high school athletes will become Division I athletes in college. But back then, and really for a long time after I even got into this work, reactive parenting was where I struggled. That's what I inherited. So it took me 8 years to stop yelling. I was a not so gentle risk grabber. I've written, and I always have taught through story and taught through vulnerability because one of my core values is that humility is a gift. And I do tell the story in the book, but I've also written an article called I Left Bruises.
Mm.
And I was a reactive parent. And still, actually, to this day, Penny, 15 years into this work, I still have moments where I'm like,
Yeah.
damn, I still have not, air quotes, perfectly cured that reactivity. And that is okay because we believe that there is no perfection in life or parenting. But reactive to responsive parenting is one of our key pillars. Another area that we believe is a gift when parents can raise their hand and say, pretty much doing the same thing that was done to me, was in the realm of teaching kids how to do things differently tomorrow. So a lot of parents lean on punishment versus discipline. So we teach a compassionate discipline model here in pillar 4 of the book. And that is really different than 9 out of 10 of us, what we inherited as far as the punishment model,
For
timeouts,
sure.
yanking technology. A lot of parents still practice corporal punishment, especially if they're in the higher control religious world. And so that's one of the other places we see parents have the courage to start fresh, wipe the slate clean. Um, and that's usually after like a really hard moment where they realize I can't keep doing this. And then the last main pillar that I talk about often is the ability to see your children as a blessing exactly as they are, not as you wish they were. So for me,
Yes.
that was around my strong-willed daughter and thinking that if she just changed, then my life would be easier. And really, it was the opposite. She has always been like an angel to me. She is the person who has called me into healing. She is the reason why I'm here today. Her button pushing ability was what allowed me to see the triggers that lied deep down inside of me way before I had children, and that just never got healed. And going through those very triggering moments with her allowed me to get the healing that I needed to then be able to operate and see the world in a different way. So that's kind of what I think of when I think of a fresh start, and that's what I write about a lot in the book. Is there's all these strategies that we teach, and then there's the deeper layers of limiting beliefs and triggers and behaviors that a lot of us inherited, and you just don't have to keep doing them. We call them inherited hand-me-down parenting tactics, and finding the courage to say, like, I'm so over this. I don't want to do this anymore is actually really quite a fun adventure.
Yeah. And that's just the starting point, right? Then you have to do the work to actually be able to shift things for yourself, which is so hard. But I want to first get clear on timing. Is there a like ideal time to make a fresh start? Is it ever too late to make a fresh start? What do you want parents to know about that?
Well, we'll start off by saying, heck no, it is never too late, right? It is never too late to start fresh. We talk about this in our membership quite often, the Fresh Start experience of how if you are somebody who were raised in a home, so say as an adult, if you were someone who was raised in a home where, you know, you did get grounded and shamed, what's wrong with you, name called, like you're being lazy, you're being entitled, whatever your parents did in those triggered moments where they were just really trying to get you to behave differently. Or maybe you grew up in a very reactive home where there was a lot of fighting or maybe even corporal punishment. And your parents came to you at like the ripe old age of 70 years old and said, you know what? I started reading a few books and I'm now seeing a therapist every week. And I realized that I did some things that I wish I would have done differently. And now I'm learning a new way. And I want you to know that I'm stepping into a new season of education so I can do it differently with my grandkids. We would all be like, yes, we might have a little part of us, depending on the level of autocratic parenting you were raised with, a little part of it to be like, why couldn't you come to me 30 years or, 70 years earlier or whatever, 50 years earlier? But most of us would be like, thank you. Thank you. Yes, I love that you're in therapy. I love that you're reading books. I love that you're opening your mind to understand how that isn't the way. What actually happens is the opposite for most of parents, most people in our community, especially again, if they're in the high control religious world, they have parents who like dig their feet in the mud and are like judging them for having compassion and, doing, but they're like, they'll watch from afar and say, you really should be harder on your kids, or you really should punish them, right? They'll kind of be the fishbowl. And then of course we do have parents that are incredibly supportive. But point being, you can imagine that scenario, right? So if you have a teenager and you all have some patterns that are pretty ingrained and you step into this work, sure. Is it going to be a higher degree of difficulty to start changing those patterns versus if you do it like the perfect world scenario is you read a book like this and you learn this work before you have a baby, right? Like all my years, thousands and thousands of students I've helped. I've had one couple when I first started teaching and I would teach out of my house, one couple that did it when they were pregnant, right? Like maybe two. I can think of someone who messaged me online, but I mean, it's just not the norm. That is my vision for the future, that this kind of work is required in high school and college, like 101 humaning. But it's just not the case, right? So many of us get it once we're in crisis. So for me, that looked like my kid was 3. I had her in timeout 17 times a day. I was starting to spank her because everyone and their mother told me that's just what you do. That'll fix it
Yeah.
fast. And I was miserable. I was blaming her for all my stress. So that was my crisis moment, right? Where I was like, and I write about that in the book, really in the intro, the moment I sat on the hardwood floor at 5 o'clock at night and left a 6-minute message from my sister-in-law saying, I'm miserable. As Stella was screaming, the baby was screaming. And I was like, I'm miserable. This is not what I signed up for. How did I get here? But other people might hit that rock bottom moment and finally step into a new way when their kids are like 8 and 13, right? Or whatever. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. But of course, it is a higher degree of difficulty as your kids get older because of the ingrained patterns, right? Like we talk a
Yep.
lot about the nervous system here. And the nervous system, the more years you've been doing something, it's going to be a little bit more effort and intention to unwind those patterns. For example, yelling.
Exactly.
Um, but it's like, it's part of adulting. It's like, yeah, what else are we going to do in life, right? Like, I know we all have a million things to do, but I really see this work as a fun adventure to challenge yourself of like, if you have an intention and a calling put on your heart and you are willing to see like, wow, I've got some things I want to change, dive in because it will be something that you never regret. Like if you dive
Yeah.
in and you decide to make a fresh start and, for example, replace punishment with discipline and your kids are like 10, 8 years old or 13 and 15, you will look back one day and thank yourself, even though it took a lot of effort.
There's always things that we don't know yet. One of the big reliefs for me and my own self blame and shame as a parent was Maya Angelou's quote, when you know better, you do better. And I'm like, okay, I really didn't know then. I did do these things that I really wish I hadn't as a parent, but now I know better. So going forward, I'm going to do better. And that really came as a relief for me and a mantra. There were so many days where
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not going to get stuck in that, even though I'm feeling bad about it, because I know I didn't know any different. I was doing what people were telling me to do. Like, I was
Yeah.
told that if I had to take all of his toys out of his room and he could earn them back one at a time. He was like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
It was horrific. Like
Right.
he's 23 now and I still beat myself up about that thing because it was
Mm.
just, it's not at all who I am, but I was listening to therapists and,
Yeah.
doing the things that people were telling me to do. Now I know better. I would never, advise anybody to do that. I would never do anything like that now. But I think our kids are like this opportunity, if we let it be, to help us grow and help us be the person that we actually want to be. Like, if I hadn't had a neurodivergent kid, would I be nearly as compassionate and empathetic about some stranger's kid screaming in the grocery store? I don't think like, oh my gosh, I wish they
Yeah.
would get their kid to shut up. I think, I wonder why that kid is struggling right now, right? And it
Yeah.
breaks my heart instead of getting irritated by it. I wouldn't be that person if it weren't for my kid, right? So, like,
And you wouldn't have gone on to help thousands and thousands of other parents learn the same
yeah,
skill.
yeah. If I hadn't learned it, I couldn't share it, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And also, I will add too, Penny, that in our world, I don't know about yours too, but I assume in our world, it's like, I love that Maya Angelou quote, right? Know better, do better. And we also have a lot of students, and this was my story too, where even once we knew better, we weren't able to do better
oh yeah.
because of the nervous system setting, right? So
Mhm.
that's like an important thing. Is like the do better part is once you are, you will, but until you really heal the nervous system, you'll keep doing that other stuff. And the important part is to get out of the shame pattern of beating yourself up
Mhm.
because as Brene Brown teaches us, right, and her social research has proven to us, which I do cite and talk about in the book, is it will keep us stuck in repeating. And in our community, we have a lot of repetitive stuff. And then people will beat themselves up because they think they should know, they know better, right? Logically.
Mhm.
they're like, I know I shouldn't yell. I don't want to yell. It's not effective or punishing, right? Or grabbing wrist too tight. And then, damn it, I did it. I did it. And so
Mhm.
then we get to do the compassion work of like, there's a whole part in the book about that of like, how do you actually work through that? And that is going to be in a way where it effectively reduces the chances that you're going to do it again tomorrow. Because
Mm.
99% of what kids learn is caught, not taught.
Yep.
So we are the most important vessel for their behavior change.
Mm. Yeah. 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 And that, knowing something and being able to implement it or integrate it in your real life are two different things. And like we know the nervous system is wired for protection, and we are literally wired to give back whatever we are receiving. So if your kid is yelling at you, your body is wired to yell back. Like it's
Yeah.
science that makes you do it. And I
Yeah.
think that was a relief point for me where I could be more compassionate with myself about it. When I learned that this is actually what we're built to do, and what we're asking of ourselves and other parents is to override that instinct and be able to do it differently. That takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of practice and it takes a lot of time. Like I've had so many parents over
Yeah.
the years go, well, it's just not that easy. I can't just like snap my fingers and not be reactive anymore. And I'm like, you're right. That's not what I'm telling you at all. Like it took me
Yeah.
years to undo, as you're talking about, undo the learned patterns, undo the belief that what our society and culture tells us about parenting is true or true for us and our kids, right? And the way that we were parented. I have a lot of families come to
Yeah.
me and say a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle or a sibling of theirs is saying, well, if you would just, punish them more, if you would just do this or that. And it's so defeating for them. And it's just because they
Infuriating.
don't
Yeah.
get it. Yeah, they don't get it in the way that you do now. They don't have the understanding
And
yet. And they may never, they
even the
may not be
experts,
willing.
even the air
Oh,
quotes
yeah. Yeah,
experts.
yeah,
I
yeah.
had
So
a
many.
woman last week who I think she was in our membership for a little bit, but she was an example of a student that like didn't stay consistent and didn't stay in the work, right? And so we all know that like you can hop in and learn a few things, but this work, as we're talking about, like it really you got to find a community that you like and stay in there and see it through. And bless her heart, but she was like, "Oh my gosh, tell me what to do. I'm not in the membership anymore." And she was asking for coaching in an email, which was not going to happen, right? And we just got to compassionately invite her back into the membership. But it's like, I got this 13-year-old now. I try to do this, but now the in-home, she called it an in-home therapist or counselor. We have an in-home therapist that felt like it was assigned by the doctor or something for this 13-year-old who has ADHD. And this in-home counselor therapist kept saying, you need to take away the Xbox. And she was like, I thought I'm not supposed to do that because what we teach is literally the polar opposite. And I'm just like, how are there still experts, air quote experts, being hired or written the referrals by pediatricians or I don't know, sometimes in our world, it can be like really twisted high control circles that assign these type of counselors. But in this, it sure felt like it was actually through the medical system that this person had been assigned this counselor. So yes, it's the grandparents, but it's also the these so-called experts. And it's so defeating because we know people like teachers like you and I know that it is so ineffective. It does not work long term. And what you're describing about the nervous system, that like innate, perfect design of our human bodies to protect ourselves, to fight back, to flight, to freeze, whatever it may be. Um, it's like it is so important that we honor the body and say thank you. Like that fight you're talking about when a kid is in your face and you're like your nervous system is like fight back, yell back. Yes, it's often because we watched somebody do that when we were young, right? Like, but B, it's this trained feeling of like a bear is chasing you. There is a 4-alarm fire. The house is burning down. Do something fast. And as
Yeah.
you were saying, to override that without shaming ourselves. Like the body is perfect. The body is not doing anything wrong. It is the nervous system is doing exactly what it should. And it's a whole process we write about in the book to come beside the nervous system and say, thank you for keeping me safe. And I'm a fully grown human. I am not the same as my mother or my father. And I can see my child not as the enemy and not as the bear, but just as a human soul child who is unique, who has special whatever. Like I am going to see him in a way that is going to allow me to step to the side, do the stop sign or the pause button, create that stimulus, space between the stimulus and the response. But yeah, what a journey it is to like be the system interrupt for your own nervous system.
I'm so glad you brought it up too about thanking your nervous system, because it's something that I have started trying to do for anxiety. Like, okay, thank you for trying to keep me safe, but I have considered the situation and I actually am safe right now. And something to help, that anxiety reactivity to sort of calm itself. And it's not a fix. Like, you're not going to say that to yourself and then your nervous system's going to go, oh, okay, right? Like, it's a process, but it helps. It's a piece of it. And I think, too, that when we can model that for our kids, like we're not teaching kids about their nervous system, about regulation, about emotional intelligence. And why not? I don't understand why not, right? Like I was in my 40s, my kids were teenagers when I learned this. And I think that speaks too to the reason that there's a lot of experts out there who are still teaching more traditional antiquated ways, because that's what they were taught to do. Only in the last decade, I think, are we teaching people in psychology and stuff like that the nervous system is a big part of this, and that it's to me, it's crucial. To me, without understanding your body and your nervous system, you're not going to be able to really work through very much. Because it's such a core piece of it. So, modeling that for our kids is huge. And when we take that fresh start,
modeling is the hardest. Damn it. It's also the most powerful. It is so powerful. And what a journey to be able to see I am responsible for so much, the co-creation of my life, and at the very same time not live in shame of like self-blame, right? Like of like, oh, there's something wrong with me because my kid's reactive because I'm reactive. It's like, no, there's nothing wrong with me. This was literally for so many of us, it is the family lineage. And it is one of the most powerful feelings on the planet when you become a system interrupter and you become the one who has broke the chain. But man, it is quite a journey. And then I think difficult. Also that when it comes to modeling and having compassion for yourself, to take the blinders off, because a lot of parents will never be willing to take the blinders off. They will go to their grave justifying their behavior and not seeing how their child is, like, as I say, the apple doesn't fall far. A lot of parents will never come to that point where they're like, oh, I see the contribution to the dance. And it really just puts you into the true power seat, because you're able to change so much of your environment and your children too when you change yourself, versus thinking that you're going to change your kids. Like I really believe we were not designed to control other human beings. And that's why all those old school things fall flat, is because they are based in power over or control. And it just doesn't work, especially for neurodivergent or strong-willed kids. It just kind of blows up in your face quite often because they are so good at raising the red flag on ineffective systems.
I love that you use the word dance, because immediately I thought, as parents, we set the tempo, we set the rhythm. We determine if it's going to be a fast, angry song or if it's going to be, peaceful or whatever, right? Like, and that impacts their nervous system. Like, what we haven't said yet is co-regulation. We haven't talked about that. But the way that we show up also is information to their nervous system and whether or not it feels that they are safe. And so the impact is greater than just our experience or the way we parent. It's also the anchor, the safety that we provide to our kids.
I
Yeah.
agree. And that's that temperature, so to speak. You said tempo. I often will talk about like the temperature in our home and like, especially when it comes to the nervous system, our nervous system's really soaked up the temperature of our home the first decade or two, definitely the first decade, also the second decade of like, what happened when there was imperfection? What happened when there was mistakes made? What happened when there was a disagreement or one person didn't want to do what another person did? Like what? Like that temperature, was it safe to actually have conflict in your home? Like did people handle it with grace and dignity and self-regulation and effective peaceful conflict resolution? Most of us would laugh at that. The answer is no. like like I grew up in a home where, and this echoes a lot for my students, it was either like giant fight, screaming, yelling, shaming, right? Like, or it was just like suppression. Like people would retreat and then just be bitter and resentful inside, but never really like work through the challenge, right?
Yeah.
And then mistakes, they were just dealt with in the classic way. Actually, my little guy, well, he's 15 and 6'2" now, but he has a new girlfriend and she got grounded this last weekend because she snuck out. She got grounded and then she got her phone taken away because that's the classic these days, right? Like so much compassion to those of you still doing that. Let us teach you a new way. I promise you. It's not going to work to change the behavior. And I remembered, I was laughing because I'm like, oh my gosh, Taryn, that's my son's name. I remember sneaking out at that exact same age. Exact same thing happened to me. I got grounded. I didn't have a phone to get taken away. And guess what? I just got better at hiding
At
my
not
sneaking
getting
out.
caught.
At hiding, right? And he knows to this day. He goes, I don't know why they're doing it. He goes, he goes, it's not going to change anything, Mom. And I'm like, it won't. And he said, I did tell her, tell your mom to call my mom. This is the second girlfriend
I
he's
bet
had.
that was well received.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. The first one, like, no. I like was like, hey, here's a podcast episode. I can support you to do it differently. And it was like crickets. And this one, I'm sure she'll never reach out. But yeah, I don't know how we went on that riff, but yeah. The temperature of your home growing up. What was it like? Yeah. I remember the night I came home when I snuck out that night. Oh my God. All the lights were on in my house. We came home. We were like, uh-oh, right? We were 13, 12, 13
your
years
nervous
old.
system was
maybe
going.
14. And it was like shame central, right? It was like, why were you thinking? When were you so worried? Whereas now, if I was teaching a family and if that would have happened to me, I would have known that I could do it a different way. I could have just been like, hey, like if that happened to me as a parent, the way I would teach it is like, everyone's going to go to sleep. Like I was so scared. I am definitely angry and everyone's going to go to sleep. We're going to talk about this in the morning. But like I would speak emotional literacy. I would make it very clear, like how scared, hurt, and angry I was. And then we would go to bed, get a good night's rest now that everyone was home. And then we would work through the life skill the next day to like, tell me what happened. What were you thinking? This is the reason why we have such firm boundaries. And then we would do logical consequences to teach an important life skill versus just what's wrong with you? Shame on you. You're such a bad kid. And now you're grounded and you're going to have everything you love taken away from you for 3 days. And that's really going to do the trick, right?
All that does is push them further away from us.
Yeah. We talk a lot about how rules plus relationship equals respect. And so the relationship you had with your son, the relationship I had with my daughter, how we did make mistakes and then make amends, right? Like that's an important part of it. Like we're not just saying, let your kids see you be imperfect and whatever. It's like, yeah, you be imperfect, right? Like let them see you fight with your husband and then, or whoever, and then make amends. Let them watch you clean things up, right?
Repair.
But with the alcohol thing, we took the same approach and we went to Mexico for my husband's 50th last summer. And Stella was like, she's 8. She was 17 at the time, but she was like, can my best friend and I, can we get some tequila? And we were like, Yeah, sure. Well, obviously, we'll be at home together. Terry and I quit drinking 3 years ago when Stella started experimenting with drinking, and we were a little freaked out because she was this high-level athlete. And we looked at ourselves and we were like, okay, hypocrisy. Like, we have been literal fish for 3 decades. I think it's time. Let's model to Stella what it looks like to not need to have a substance, right? And it's time. It's time. And so I said, let's quit. So it's been 3.5 years. We've never felt better. But we said to her, sure, like, you can spend your own money. I'm not going to buy it, but you can spend your own money. So they bought this beautiful tequila bottle in Mexico. And I swear it was like night 7. And we were like, are you guys going to drink that? And they were like, yeah, I don't even know if we open it. We won't need, like, we might, I don't know if we can take it home. So then they brought it home and it sat on our counter, Penny. And Stella's in a party group. Like, I've taken the angle of not like micromanaging her friends. I love that she has diversified friends, that, she's got stoner friends. She's got friends at parties. She doesn't really have that many athlete friends that live the same life. It sat on the counter for so long that we were like, what is happening? So, like, if we were 17, we were keg parties every weekend. We were doing anything to get out of the house. The way I see it now is we were so desperate for belonging and power because we didn't have it with our parents. Like, on the surface level, air quotes, it was air quotes fine. But really, I didn't have the connection that I wanted with my parents. I didn't have a relationship. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel like I belonged. There was still this type of punishment and shame going on. So anytime I got out of the house, I was like, later. Yeah. And so just the real life efficacy of what we're talking about, I just want to let the listeners know we're not just like, oh, it's a cool idea to like really have safety in your house and teach your kids life skills. No, it actually works. Like, that tequila sat on the counter, I want to say, for at least 6 months before finally she took it to some party and she was going to contribute or something. And I think she probably was even 18 by that time, which I think is a big win for teenagers to like have tequila sit on the counter for 6 to 8 months and not even.
It's huge.
Right?
But if you had said, no, absolutely not, you cannot taste any alcohol until you are 21, what would have happened? She and her friend would have immediately went and got something somehow and drank some of it. Like, and we need to let kids find their path. Like, part of that control as parents is also, it comes from the best of intentions. It comes from wanting the best for them, but we end up trying to guide what they become. And we can't actually do that. They're their own person. So when we try to do that, we end up forcing the kinds of things that we don't want. A rift in the relationship, them not coming and talking to us about things. Self-medicating is a thing.
I know. Such a journey, but it is really so interesting to see how effective it is to have the relationship where you're not living in this hypocritical better than thou place, but also standing very firm in your wisdom, right? Like, there's also, like, we're talking about kind of these, like, someone might see that as like looser boundaries, but then we also really have dove deep into actual research and education around what is going to keep our kids safe and what are the strong boundaries that are, you're going to put your air quotes foot down on some things, but you do it with relationship is the big thing. And that's just what most parents aren't used to. You put your foot down around a boundary, but then you do it with fear and intimidation or threats that if they don't listen, something bad is going to happen, versus education on why the boundary exists. And in our world these days, it's a lot around technology. It's around safety. It's around telling the truth. It's around peer pressure. But it's the earlier you can start, it is better, right? Like, if you can, if you hear this information and you got little ones, just dive in as early as you can. I really do teach all of this stuff inside the book, and I tell so many stories. We're not just giving the how to, but we are really, I really tried to give as many stories as possible to show you, here's what it looks like in real life.
I love that we've had such a real conversation together today and that we're sharing it with people. Like, that's
Me
what,
too.
matters. That's what is relatable and that's memorable. So, I think it makes a greater impact sometimes. Wendy, tell everybody where they can find the book. I know it's in pre order right now. Let them know when it's going to come out, and where they can find you online.
Thank you, Penny. Yes. Pre-order, pre-orders help authors so much. So much so you can order anywhere books are sold, but then we have a pre-order page, freshstartfamilyonline.com/pre-order. Once you place your order, come and give us your order number because we have some really great bonuses for you. We have a really beautiful journal and implementation guide that has a value of $45. We will be selling that for $45 once the book is has published. And so you get to get it for free for now when you pre-order, and you still won't be charged till May 26th. So this, I
Awesome.
think, is the most perfect Mother's Day gift. And thank you. Just thank you in advance. Pre-orders really help authors, places like Amazon, Target, Barnes and Noble, they place orders based on our pre-order numbers as authors. So that's a great place to come find us. Instagram, I'm Fresh Start Wendy. Our podcast is the Fresh Start Family Show. And then the last thing I will say, I know, Penny, you and I have talked so much about how neurodiverse kids, most of them are like strong-willed kids. And really, we specialize in strong-willed kids here, seeing the beauty in them, seeing them as blessings, not curses, and really helping families understand how they can work with a strong-willed kid in a way that actually causes them to want to listen and cooperate instead of being forced to listen and cooperate. So we have a really great learning bundle they can download at freshstartfamilyonline.com/secrets, where we teach 3 secrets to thriving with strong-willed kids.
Awesome. I will link everything up in the show notes too at parentingadhdandautism.com. Thank you, Wendy. It's always so much fun to chat with you. And I will see everybody next time. Take good care.
Thanks, Penny.